Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of an Evolved Review. I am your host, James Caleb Kitchens, and as always, I am joined by none other than the Mater D of the Stovall Wrestling Network, the man himself, the man who consumes more wrestling content than anyone on earth, and we are going to prove that in this series of episodes. Caleb Stovall, welcome back to the show, man.
Hey, man, what's going on? It's a brand new year. I'm excited about things. There's new opportunities and stuff happening and everything like that. And it's awesome to talk about a different wrestling promotion that I've been wanting to talk about for a while.
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching this on video, then you've already figured it out. But if you're listening to this anywhere that your podcasts are served and you just happen to click on us, this kind of series of episodes is going to be looking at Ring of Honor's 2020 Pure Tournament, which I'm pretty excited about because I haven't watched Ring of Honor seriously in, I don't know, probably 10 years. Samoa Joe was there last time I watched it seriously, so it's probably been longer than that. That being said, I am excited to sort of take a look at it. We're definitely going to try to cover the next AEW pay-per-view that comes out, which is going to be Revolution. I believe that's going to be in February. We're going to try to cover that live, or not live, but pretty shortly after it comes out.
Yeah.
So to fill the time between now and then, man, we're going to kind of change the format of the show a little bit. We're going to talk about these tournament episodes. We might cover a few topics, kind of get us warmed up. And then, we're going to slowly but surely get through this pure tournament and give our kind of thoughts on the tournament, the format of the tournament, the talent in it. And I'm excited, man, because I know that this is Ring of Honor, something you're passionate about, and I just haven't spent enough time watching it.
Yeah, this idea really kind of came about because, I just feel as though, when you talk about a sports-based presentation to wrestling, and, let me be, quite clear, wrestling can be whatever it wants to be. Whatever company you want to be when presenting wrestling, that's what, you could be that. WWE can present, the theatrical part of it and stuff like that. So can AEW, if they really want to, but they said, they wanted to do a sports-based presentation and everything like that. Well, I'm like, I've always felt like Ring of Honor has focused a lot on wrestling and has not really gotten the attention that it deserves. But when I really fell in love with Ring of Honor was when I saw them live. So I have this thing where, like, okay, so it's kind of like when I go to see a concert, right? I saw Tech Nine live, and I had listened to Tech Nine before, and I was starting to get really into his stuff because he had a lot of great stuff. But, I wasn't listening to him that heavy. And then I went to go and see him live in Atlanta. And it was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen from any artist in any genre. Like, I'm a metal fan and I'm here, at a rap show, and he put on just an amazing performance. So he hooked me forever. I instantly became a fan of his. And that's just always something that I've had with like lifestyle products, such as wrestling, back in the day, WCW. I saw Nitro live in Augusta. I was there as a child. That show captured me to this day. That's why I'm such a WCW fan still to this day, even the dark years of WCW and stuff like that. It was great. So I had the opportunity to see Ring of Honor live at Center Stage in Atlanta. So when I tell you this, I truly believe this. Like, it was just a TV taping. There weren't a lot of, like, quote unquote big stars. I mean, you had Marty Scurll, you had Jay Lethal, PCO, Villain Enterprises and stuff like that. You had Flip Gordon, you had all of these guys, but nobody really of big name note. And it was one of the best live wrestling shows I had attended in years. I mean, I ranked it ahead of WrestleMania 28 in Atlanta. And I was there at the Georgia Dome. You were there too.
I was.
And
May it rest in peace.
I'm telling you, this was better than that as far as a wrestling show. I was sitting there just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Think if this was in a big arena, or think if it was like, just on TV for everyone to see, not just on Sinclair. And I just was like, oh my God. So Ring of Honor had me instantly hooked at that point. I became like a hardcore fan of theirs and stuff like that. So, that's why I really wanted to talk about this, because, I really want, people to like, no, go, if, you might not like what WWE definitely is presenting. And a lot of people don't like what AEW, is presenting. So I'm like, well, if you want something truly different, go check this out.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, just what I've seen of it, we'll get into it further later on, but just what I've seen of it so far, I'm very interested in kind of following the product a little bit more, because for me, I just like good wrestling, and I'm very big into the entertainment side of it as well. We talked about this a lot with wrestling, about being about creating moments, but you can create moments in just a good wrestling match, and I think that's you know that's such a lost art on a lot of folks. Um, that being said, there are a couple of things I want to talk about before we get into the tournament. Because so here today, we're just going to cover the first two matches of the tournament, and those two matches is Jay Lethal versus Dalton Castle, which, I mean, on paper, that's like just mind blowing, you
Yeah.
know. And then we're going to talk about Wheeler Yuta versus Jonathan Gresham.
Yeah.
An interesting thing about Jonathan Gresham is, he wrestled a few times in the Augusta area, and I saw him live several times, and I never thought, this guy's going to be Ring of Honor, heavyweight champion, or one of their biggest stars. So that's just very cool. Or he's widely considered to be the best technical wrestler in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been talked about a lot, man. If you've seen a lot of people have been really impressed with his work, and it really has just been in Ring of Honor.
Yeah. Before we go too much further, so not our last episode, but the one before that, where our last episode of 2020, where we reviewed NXT's Halloween Havoc. We're gonna be, we're a couple weeks removed from that now, but this is really our first time recording since this happened, and I want to talk a minute about the passing of Brody Lee, aka John Huber, um, and this is something that really shocked, the wrestling world. WWE fans knew him as Luke Harper, um, and we don't know. There's not a ton for us to really talk about because we don't really know the cause of death, or if anything, if it was wrestling related, or if it was just some crazy medical condition. But the only thing that we do know, from his wife, she said that it was a non-COVID-19 related lung issue of some sort.
Mhm.
Um, but I do want to say something on the program about this, because we did give him a 10 bell salute, but I wanted to address it, and kind of talk about this, because this really shook the wrestling world, because
Yeah.
Brody Lee was somebody that was liked by nearly everyone. You never heard a bad word about the guy even before. We talked about during the Owen Hart episode. It's like, well, you never hear anybody say anything bad about him now, because you can't. I don't care how valid your claim would be. If you're talking about a guy that's been dead for 21 years, you're going to be the asshole in that scenario.
Yeah.
But a month ago, but when John Huber was still alive, walking around, you never heard a bad word about the guy. And people across the industry, he worked with some of the all-time greats. Jericho, especially, he worked with in WWE. Jericho was instrumental in getting him a good contract at AEW. And I think a lot of people, when he came to AEW, he was one of those guys that people said WWE, had sat on this guy for too long. WWE was never going to give him a fair shake. and now he's in AEW and he's got a chance to get that fair shake. Um, I just, to me, it's tragic, and I hope we find out more about what's happening. But from what we know now, it's just a tragedy.
Yeah, man. I remember where I was when this broke. I had just woken up because I'm on a weird schedule now. I work late nights, and so I had just woken up to go to work, and I had turned on my Facebook just real quick, and I saw the post from AEW. It had the picture of Brody Lee, and it said heartbroken and everything like that. And I was just like, no, like this can't be real. And I mean, it was like, it was so sudden. No one knew, that there was anything wrong uh, with him. It seemed like he was just on being the elite, yesterday, trying not to laugh because they were doing those scenes on being the elite. If you've never seen the Dark Order stuff on being the elite, it's some of the funniest
Joining us
thing.
now is a leading
Like,
member of the
and
coronavirus.
it's them trying to be serious, but they can't because they're just, it's so stupid. Like, it's so funny. And you could tell that they all loved being around each other, and that they were having so much fun. Our good friend Alan Angels is on there.
Yeah,
He's part of the Dark Order.
right.
So he got to spend time with Brody Lee. He's at the they did a tribute episode for Brody Lee, and it starts off with Nick Jackson. And I think he said something like, it's Monday. You know what that means, which is it's something that I think Brody was saying on being the elite or something like that. I kind of forgot, but and then he said, this one's for you, Brody. We love you, buddy. You could tell he was shook. He was just like, what, what's going on, kind of thing. Like, and they're supposed to do a tribute show for him on Dynamite. They were going to do the Holiday Bash thing. They were doing the 2-night Holiday Bash thing, but they completely switched that, and they're doing a tribute show for him, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I want to share something, and then we'll move on. From a good friend of the show, WWE referee Antron Brewer. Did you see this on his Facebook, perhaps?
I think I might have saw it. I've seen so many things, but I think I know what you're talking about. But go ahead.
So he has this publicly on his Facebook, so I'm hoping that he won't mind me sharing it here. But he said his tryout match when he tried out to be a referee in the Performance Center was actually when John was returning. They were clearing him to basically return to television, and that was Antron's tryout match. And he asked him what the finish was, and he says the finish is when he doesn't kick out. So when he actually hits the last move, he hits his finish on the match. He winked at Antron and he said finish, and they did the count. And from then on, they always greeted each other with the word finish. That's how they always greeted each other for years and years after.
That's tremendous.
And reading that, it was like that just gives you an idea of the type of person that he was.
Yeah.
And uh yeah, man, I mean, my heart goes out to everybody that worked with him. I unfortunately never knew him personally, but he seems like he was a hell of a guy. And I just this has shaken the wrestling world, and it has impacted people across all the major promotions, even some of the promotions on the indies where he worked as Brody Lee. And we'll get through it. um you know the show unfortunately will go on, and the only thing we can do now really is have it go on in a way that would honor him. And I just wanted to talk about it because I didn't want us to not talk about this,
Yeah.
because it is such a huge tragedy for pro wrestling.
It really is, but not just pro wrestling, man. Because anybody that if you've noticed from all of the posts, from every single wrestler you could think of, what was the one thing that Brody talked about the most? His family.
Yep.
He was a family man, and you can tell how much his wife is hurting. She called him his best friend or her best friend. You
Yeah.
know, not a lot of term that you hear in marriages today. Kind of thing. So at least just from my vantage point, I don't know much about that, but it's heartbreaking that his two sons. Um, yeah, dude, it sucks. And it's nobody's. There's nothing anybody that could have done. It just I I really don't know what to say at this point. I think that's all that really needs to be said. Like
Yep.
it's
I think with our with us covering Dark Side of the Ring as often as we do, I have a feeling that we will be talking about it again. Um, because something, you know, there will be details that come out. I feel one way or the other. Not saying there's foul play or anything like that, but it is a huge tragedy, and I think that we don't know everything we're going to know about it. So, um, I feel like we'll be seeing a Dark Side of the Ring episode about this at some point. Unfortunately, I wish it didn't have to happen. But let's move on because, like I said, we've said everything there is to say about it, um, and we'll move forward. One more thing I did want to talk about. I want to talk about the Hulk Hogan biopic that is uh,
yes.
yeah that's in the works. So I wanted to touch on that. So this is actually a Netflix production, which it seems like these days Netflix is runs everything and is doing everything, and it's going to star none other than Chris Hemsworth, which is probably one of the few big actors in Hollywood today, other than The Rock, and obviously The Rock can't play him.
Right.
Who has the name and the weight behind him with all of his Marvel work, and then also can get in the kind of shape
Oh, God.
because regardless of your opinion of Hulk Hogan, during the height of his career, he was in amazing physical shape. Um, and I've seen some images of Hemsworth working out. I've seen some of the results, and I mean he's put on the bulk, man. I think he's really going to deliver. I mean Hogan himself, he got the seal of approval from Hogan himself, so it's hard to argue with that.
Dude, I'm excited about it. I really am. It's one of those movies that I'm finally excited about that doesn't have anything to do with Marvel or or like
Right.
the Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus, not the stuff that they release in theaters, but the Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus. I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about Marvel stuff. But this is the first thing like outside of that, that I've been excited about. Surprisingly, though, it does, star someone who is a big, huge star in the Marvel universe.
And
So,
shameless plug, if you want to know about all the new Marvel and Disney or Marvel and Star Wars stuff that's coming to Disney Plus, we did happen to do a preview episode of that featuring Joe Brown from Suplexes and Microphones. You should go check it out if you haven't already.
yeah, that episode's tremendous. But yeah, and so I'm excited about this though. I really am. Because first of all, Chris Hemsworth, he is a tremendous actor. Like, and I believe he will nail Hulk Hogan. I think he will, just be completely in character. I think he's done his homework and everything like that. I mean, how could you not? There's literally tons of matches and stuff like that. There's the man himself. He probably did interviews. Eric Bischoff is an executive producer of this thing.
And
So
so is Hogan himself.
yeah.
Um,
So
Now, I think that that's both good and bad, right? I think it's good because obviously the two of them have a very good insight on the career of Hulk Hogan. I mean, Hogan was there. Bischoff has been a longtime ally of his, and was very really responsible for his persona outside of the WWF. Um, that being said, though, I also think that due to their heavy involvement in it, we are not going to see any of the later stuff from his life that's controversial. We aren't going to see anything about the sex tape. We're not going to see anything about the lawsuit. We're not going to see anything about the the professional dress do rag he wore in court. We're not going to see anything about the sex tape. We're not going to see anything about him, dropping the N bomb and getting kicked out of the Hall of Fame. And I mean, we're not going to see any of the controversy. We're not going to see any of the lows. I think this is going to be like a kind of glorification biopic where they kind of chart his trajectory. We're not going to see him, stabbing Dr. D in the back on the way up or anybody else.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to a good movie. That
Right.
that that's just what I hope it is. Whatever stories they want to or not tell or flip around, whatever. I don't care. Just give me a good movie.
Right.
Just give me a good, credible movie on wrestling and everything like that. That's like this, because this isn't a documentary. This is literally a movie.
Right.
You know, Hemsworth is playing Hulk Hogan, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to seeing who's going to play what other roles. Who's going to play Macho Man Randy Savage? Who's going to play Vince McMahon? All this other stuff. I don't know that stuff. I don't follow, IMB or whatnot. You could probably look it up and tell me, but
I don't think anybody has been cast besides Hemsworth. I may be wrong on that. Um, but I'm actually going to fact check that real quick. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these movies that have come out lately, that I've been really into, like Rocket Man or Bohemian Rhapsody. These were movies about figures that I was interested in. I don't give a shit if they're 100% accurate or not. Give me an entertaining film. I don't care if this song actually came out in 1983, but some shit happened in 85 that made it make more sense to put it right there in the movie. I don't care about all that. Just entertain me for 90 minutes or 2 hours or whatever.
yeah, and give me at least an accurate portrayal of the character itself.
Right. Yeah,
Which
exactly.
you talk about with this, and then you talk about or you mention Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, did that guy not nail Freddie Prince? Or I'm Freddie Prince. Oh God. Freddie Mercury.
I was like,
Brain lapse on that one.
I'm like trying to
Figuring
look through my
it
monitor over here. Um, no, I mean, yeah. So here's the interesting thing too, though,
out.
and the reason that I'm kind of excited, about this whole thing. One of the producers on the film is Joe Russo,
Yeah.
uh, and so I'm excited about that. And if you don't know who Joe Russo is, look that up. Uh, and then another person is Todd Phillips is actually involved with it as well. He's another producer on the film. So, and he is the guy who directed Joker
Oh yeah, yeah. And
and the Hangover films, A Star Is Born. Those type of movies. So,
yeah. And Joker has had mixed reviews about it. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix did an incredible job. I will say, to me, it wasn't that much of a Joker story, as much of it just was a good story, I guess. I don't know,
and
but
and Todd Phillips is actually directing this movie.
I
That's
am looking forward to that.
so. Yeah, I just saw that. So, but yeah, I mean, I was correct though. Hemsworth's the only person that's been cast. I vote Jay Lethal to be Macho Man.
Or hell, Ric Flair.
Jesus Christ.
Hey man, that Flair and Jay Lethal back and forth promo is still one of the best promos.
Agreed. I my thing, I really want Sam Rockwell to be Vince McMahon. And if you're not
Ooh, that one would be interesting.
yeah, if you're not familiar with Sam Rockwell, he plays Justin Hammer in the MCU. He also was George Bush in the Dick Cheney movie that came out not too long ago. He's in several other things too. He was in Jojo Rabbit, which I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, he played George Bush in Vice, and pretty much anything that you see the guy in, he nails it. And I think he would pull off Vince McMahon very well.
Yeah, I don't know who I could see playing that. I mean, Sam Rockwell would be a good one. I think. I was trying to think of someone, and they just completely lost my mind. Kevin Spacey would probably be pretty good as a
That
but
that ain't
being now.
in the words of Hulk Hogan, that ain't happening, brother.
How about Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays
Mm,
in Daredevil? The
yes, yes.
Kid.
He would be great. Yeah, I mean, what I think he would fit Cornette's description. I love that description of Vince, where he says he's a combo between
An
uh,
angel,
no,
or
it's not an angel.
yeah.
It's a demon and something else.
Oh, he Vince McMahon is both a genius and a demon.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to look up the exact quote, but I fucking love it.
Yeah,
It's like the best description of Vince McMahon ever.
it is.
That being said, man, we kind of got the housekeeping out of the way. A couple things we wanted to talk about. Let's dig into this spear tournament. Why don't
Yes.
you tell us how this came about, and then I will go over the rules for the tournament.
All right. So the pure title is a different type of title, and I didn't know anything about this until I got really into Ring of Honor, and there was a mention of this thing called Pure Rules. And when I really became familiar of this was obviously when, to me, they had one of the, well, it's the best match ever in Ring of Honor as far as I'm concerned. My number one pick on this show, Nigel McGuinness and Brian Danielson. Now that's just my opinion. That's just my favorite one to showcase and everything like that. But the Pure Championship is a different type of title because it literally is it goes kind of, I don't know if it necessarily goes back to the old days, but it goes to where the rules are really enforced. Let's put it that way. But the rules are somewhat a little different. They throw in the 3 rope breaks thing and everything like that. So you really have to rely on wrestling. It doesn't look like a scripted contest kind of thing. Like it looks like it relies basically on in-ring presentation. And it's really interesting. And it's one of the things that has really separated Ring of Honor. So they took it away for a little bit. They brought it when they first started, the first ever championship, or champion, I should say, is none other than the phenomenal AJ Styles.
Yep, and he defeated CM Punk for it, right?
Correct. And what I liked about how they opened up with this episode was as they showed you that. They showed you, this is the history of the Pure Championship. So you basically get it right off the bat. You're like, oh, okay, so this is what it is, and stuff like that. And they've had a bunch of Pure champions. One of yours, Samoa Joe, was a huge champion. A guy that's competing in this tournament, Jay Lethal, he was a Pure champion. Austin Aries, I believe, was a Pure champion. Nigel McGuinness was a Pure champion. And the last Pure champion, who unified the belts with the Ring of Honor title, was what it was just called. It wasn't the ROH world title. It was just the ROH title, basically. And Danielson unified those belts by defeating Nigel McGuinness, who had the belt at the time. Now, with this belt, it makes it interesting, though, because now you can really see who is a heel, who is breaking the rules, who doesn't have any respect for wrestling and everything like that. Like it literally feels, like I said, like a sporting contest. It's presented that way. So if you're looking for entertainment and stuff like that, you're not going to find it with this one.
Well,
You're going to find old school style wrestling in ways.
yeah, and if I may interject there, I do think that the way that this was built, you're talking about where they show you the history of the championship, not only was it very sports based, but it was also built in a way that somebody who's never seen Ring of Honor could understand it and know what's at stake here. They did an amazing job with these opening video packages, something that I think I have a lot of credibility to speak on. They did such a good job with these, with the promos before the matches too. This was just well done all around. So I did want to add that.
Yeah. And you notice like people are not screaming in the promos. They're not going, let me tell you something. Oh, that's a bit, and doing and having those scripted words said precisely, kind of thing. These were just guys talking, but it was like they were in fight mode, kind of
Right.
thing. It's like I know what's at stake here. It felt like I said, like a sporting thing. It felt like UFC with wrestling.
Yeah. And one thing I really like in the promo videos too is that everyone is talking mostly about themselves. Dalton Castle's not like, Jay Lethal, I'm gonna fuck you up. I'm gonna burn your house down. I'm gonna kill your family. All that shit. He's merely talking about his rise and his career in pro wrestling, how dangerous he was and still is, and basically the fact that no one is going to stop him from reclaiming, or initially claiming the pure championship. And
Yeah.
I love that about it. And it's everyone's is like that. I mean, of course, Lethal and Gresham both mention each other because they are the tag team champions.
Yeah.
They talk about each other, but they don't go out and it's not, listen here, brother. It's not that shit where you're basically trash talking your opponent as some wrestling promo. Not to say that that's that doesn't work or that that's not entertaining if it's done
Obviously.
well. But this is different and it feels different, and that is almost good enough in wrestling these days anyway.
Yeah, and again, that right there proves my point about Ring of Honor that I've always said. If you go back in the 90s, the reason that the Monday Night Wars worked so good is because during the time that Nitro launched to 98, it looked nothing like the WWE. They both looked like two different companies and stuff like that. It didn't look the same. While it was the same, it's not, kind of thing. It's different. But then since WWE swallowed up everything, and that is how they present wrestling and stuff like that. And that's fine if they want to have Raw and SmackDown or their whole network, but your programs have to look different from each other and stuff like that. And then in wrestling, like it's like you can't look like the WWE. You cannot look like a cheap version of it, or else it's not going to work. So, I think even a friend of ours, Mr. Chris Wiggins, did that with Flatline. He was like, hide the negative, or accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. Well, okay, we can't compete with them with production values and stuff like that. So we're going to present it differently. We're going to have the focus on the in-ring product. And I know a lot of people say stuff about their production, especially with like their YouTube videos. But I mean, if you look at their I've liked the way they shoot wrestling, where
Right.
it's up close to it and it looks like a fight.
Yeah, I like it too. I also like their use of the overhead cam.
Yeah.
They do that a good bit, not too much to where it's distracting, but that's a unique camera shot that typically we don't see that elsewhere unless it's in WWE and there's a ladder match of some kind. Um,
Uh, TNA used to do it a lot.
yeah, that's true. They would do it in the Ultimate X a lot, especially. That being said, before we go too much further, if you want to check this out, you actually can watch. You don't need any kind of subscription or anything. You can go on the Fight app or Fight.tv and you can watch this. And it starts at episode 469 of Ring of Honor. I believe it took place in September. Let me verify that. Yeah, September 12th. But the episode number on the Fight app is 469. And like I said, you can watch it for free. And that has the entire intro that we're talking about here for the tournament, as well as both of the matches that we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, like I said, please go and check it out. It's different, and you have to be different. And so, they bring back the Pure Championship, right? They're bringing it back because they did a poll, and I don't remember when they did this poll or something like that. Because Ring of Honor went through, a little bit of a dark period there. Let's just put it that way. Cody and the Bucks and Hangman Adam Page, who were like going to be like their biggest stars and everything like that, and who were their biggest stars, left to go do AEW. They spent a bunch of money trying to help with All Out, because a lot of people, give credit to the Bucks and Cody, but let's be honest, Ring of Honor helped flip the bill on that one, and
Yeah.
it's been well documented. And I didn't think that they got a good showcase for what they should have gotten. I thought that they should have showcased their style. Same thing when they had the Madison Square Garden, which was huge. The first wrestling event to be held in Ring of Honor that wasn't WWE, or I'm sorry, the first wrestling event to be held in Madison Square Garden that wasn't WWE.
Yeah.
And so that was a big deal. And the problem was it was a good show, but it was a good show on the New Japan side. New
Right.
Japan really showcased their stuff, which was smart on their part. And when it came to Ring of Honor at the time, they tried to go like ECW. They tried to kind of present WWE. I mean, their main event for the title was a ladder match with Matt Taven and Jay Lethal and Marty Scurll. And I was just like, no, if it's me and I'm the head booker of this thing, I'm booking the Ring of Honor title, and it's going to be between two men. And
Right.
that's how it's going to get settled. That is what everyone was wanting. And they also had the Beautiful People, who's called the Allure now or something like that. They debuted, and it didn't go very well. And then they had a bunch of PR stuff that didn't go very well. So everyone was kind of wondering, like, oh man, is Ring of Honor going to survive and stuff like that? And then, of course, COVID happens, and everything has to shut down. But Ring of Honor was still, chugging along. They were also doing stuff with NWA that was also helping them. But like I said, they went through kind of a PR thing. So they did a poll, and they said, would you guys like us to bring back the Pure Championship? I guess they were talking about doing that. And the fans voted unanimously. They said, yes, we want the Pure Championship back, because it provided such a different feel to the wrestling products. So they were like, yes, that would be interesting. And then COVID happened. So they were going to bring it back in April. And then, of course, COVID happens, the pandemic happens and whatnot. And so they had to put everything on hold, like everyone else did, other than AEW and WWE, obviously. But so they bring it back, and this was, I guess, their relaunch of it. And what I like about it was it's almost a reset for the company if you think about it, the way they presented it. Would
Right.
you agree?
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see a lot of it beforehand, but I mean, I'm very familiar with all the struggles that they've gone through. But it's important to mention they lost Marty Scurll as well to NWA. He signed a big exclusivity agreement with them.
No, no, actually, remember, he became the head booker. He was going to become, well, I don't know if it was I think it was the head booker, but he was going to become like the head booker of Ring of Honor because that's what he wanted to do. And then those, sex allegations or whatnot, I guess, came on him or something like that. And, he's no longer with Ring of Honor right now.
Right.
So Delirious is booking Ring of Honor again.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's the talent loss is massive. I mean, this would be like if WWE lost like the top 6 people in the company,
Yeah.
you know. Um that being said, I mean, it's miraculous that they, are back running, and that they're putting on, stuff of the quality that they're putting on. I'm speaking of it being different. I'm going to talk about the rules of the tournament here. They've already, they right at the beginning, they revealed the rules for the tournament. All the round one matches have a 15-minute time limit. All of the semifinals are going to have a 20-minute time limit. All the finals are going to have a 30-minute time limit. And then the very last match will have a 1 hour time limit. So, that's a marathon basically for the final. They basically they know that that's going to be all out. No pun intended. Um, there are judges for each match. Time limit draws go to a judge's decision. I really like that because you don't kick both guys out of the tournament. You also don't make the time limit not matter. And so, I like that there's that extra little bit that they can add in there. And then for every pure match, the rules are as follows. Every match begins and ends with the code of honor handshake. I like that, that it's there in the rules. Um, each wrestler has 3 rope breaks to stop a submission hold or a pin. Once you've exhausted your 3 rope breaks, basically you have no rope breaks at that point. So if you grab the ropes, so what? You can still be pinned under the ropes. You can still tap under the ropes. Um, Closed fist punches to the face are not permitted. You can only do chops, open hand slaps. You can do like a gut punch or a punch to the back or whatever. Other body parts, no low blows. Um, First use of a closed fist is a warning from the referee. Second's a DQ. That's definitely not something that we're used to in pro wrestling,
Nope.
especially not in today's world of like the heavy striking styles. And then also, when a wrestler is out on the floor, it's a 20-minute count, not a 10-minute count, or not 20 minutes. It's a 20 count, not a 10 count.
Which I like.
Yeah, and then also I really love this too. This last bit that they threw in there that if you interfere, you're done. Like, not you're out of the tournament. You're off the roster. Terminated. You're done.
And
Um,
the person that helped you.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just that to me says this is a sports based product because otherwise it's like anybody else could also have made this rule, but after watching like 150 tournaments where people interfere in the different matches and whatnot, nobody's thought to do it. So, and for good reason. But I like that this is a different format. As a matter of fact, I was watching this, and my roommate actually they were talking about like a closed fist punch to the face, and my roommate was like, "Yeah, like anybody pays attention to that." And I said, "No, actually, they do. In this particular thing, they actually do." And he was like, "What? That's crazy." And I was like, "Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's basically just an unwritten, like it's just a rule that everyone ignores in WWE. I don't know what the fuck the rule set is in AEW, but in WWE, it's just a rule everyone ignores unless there's some storyline reason for them not to ignore it."
Yeah, that again is what just makes this, tournament just so different from everything. That's when like I heard Tony Khan say it about AEW. He wanted a sports-based presentation and everything like that. And don't get me wrong, I love AEW. It was it was no, it was the best wrestling show I had seen live in years. And then, like I said, the second one was that Ring of Honor show in Atlanta that I saw. Um, but that's what makes this different. Tony Khan, like I said, he wanted a sports based presentation, but we haven't really gotten that with AEW. We've gotten a lot of entertaining stuff, and don't get me wrong, it has been entertaining. I've liked a lot of the stuff that they've done, but I'm sitting there just like, but that's not sports. That's entertainment, which is fine, like I said. But if you want to truly be different, then you have to do it like this. And that's what I like about this is that the rules are really enforced. And some people might not like that, because they might think that that's boring and everything like that. But, it makes it so simple to follow if you really think about it.
I agree entirely. Yeah, I really do. I really like the format. And then, when they were describing it, I was like, okay, I like this, but let's see how it is in practice. And then the first thing they bring out, and obviously they knew that this was the right move. I mean, look at the matches on the very first episode. All four of these guys could win
Yeah.
on paper. Um, Obviously, Lethal and Castle are both former Ring of Honor champions. Um, Jonathan Gresham, as I said before, no introduction needed. One of the, a lot of people consider him the best technical wrestler alive. And then Wheeler Yuta is somebody that I was not familiar with really hardly at all. And I was incredibly impressed with him.
Hmm.
I love the journey he talks about. I love the way they built him up. And I mean, he seems like he's a prodigy to be as young as he is and be as good as he is. Um, I was really impressed with that. But let's talk about the first match. Both of these opening promos were incredible. They were both convincing. They were both well done. You had Lethal talking about, hey, I have been in wrestling for, I believe he says 19 years. And he talks about everything he's gone through and all the greats he's learned from. He's been in the ring, with Joe. He's been in the ring with AJ. He's been in the ring with CM Punk. I mean, a who's who of wrestling over the last 20 years. He was so prominently featured on Impact for a long time.
Yeah.
This is somebody who is a student of the game. They've been around. They are a veteran, and they can still go. Um, and then Castle talking about the fact that because of his gimmick, and he's one of the few people in Ring of Honor to really have like a gimmick.
Yeah.
And he does so well with it. But he says, that's people see the colors and the gimmick basically, and they assume that I'm not dangerous, but that I'm going to remind them that I'm dangerous. And I loved both of these things, and it got me hyped to see the match, and it gave them each a story to tell. Um,
Yeah.
Now I will say this: this match to me I did think, and this is possibly the only negative I have about this match. I did feel like there was a little bit of rust. I felt like these guys had been out of action for a bit. I did not sense that in the later match though. Yuta and Gresham looked absolutely crisp, but I with Lethal and Castle, I don't know what it is. There was a little bit of a disconnect there. Nothing terrible, but it just felt a little off for them to me. Did you see any of that?
I a little bit, but in ways I kind of like that they're not too crisp.
Right,
That is a problem that I kind of have with AEW and WWE, with WWE especially. Like everything does look too crisp. It's like, no, some things can look a little rough, because it's a fight. Like, let's be honest, a lot of the fights in the UFC, some of them are not the best looking fights, but it looks better, you know.
right.
It like I don't know, and I'm not necessarily saying that for this matchup, but I can tell, kind of looking back at it, that there was a little ring rust. But that's what kind of what happens when you've been off the shelf for 6 months.
Right. Um, I love that Castle's promo was about how dangerous he is. And he
Yeah.
forces Jay Lethal, this seasoned veteran, to use one of his rope breaks in like the first like 30 seconds.
Yeah. And right there, that's showing you the sports presentation of it. Before we go any further, I've been praising this guy for a while, but I wanted to know what you thought of the commentary with Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman.
So I haven't been that familiar with Riccaboni. Like this is maybe the first time I've heard him, at least in a long time. And I thought it was really good. Obviously, I'm more familiar with Caprice Coleman's ring work.
Well, yeah,
He used to be in a prominent tag team with none other than Darius Lockhart. That being said, um, at the very beginning I was kind of worried about his commentary because at the very start of this he didn't seem really like confident, I guess. But I guess it was maybe just like maybe they were a little rusty too because that quickly within the first like minute or so of the match fades away, and I thought that after they kind of got their rhythm going, I thought they did an amazing job for the whole rest of the event.
yeah, and like it didn't feel scripted, like nothing felt scripted, and everything like that. But like it felt like some people might understand this, some people might not, but it felt like Joe Buck was calling the action kind of thing. Not, people can say what they want to about his commentary or whatnot. I like him. And the reason why is because when he does it, he's presenting sports, you
Right.
know, and that's what these guys, like I said, that's what I felt like these guys were doing. It felt like they were calling it like this was a sporting contest. And they were pointing out things all throughout the match that made you not forget the rules and also enhanced it.
Right, I agree. Especially if you're going to do a very heavily wrestling based product like this, the commentary is there to enhance this. And for somebody who hasn't studied, thousands of tapes of Japanese wrestling and shit like that, this is there. The commentary is there to kind of narrate for you what is happening. That being said, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good addition to both matches. Um, and I would, it didn't feel like nobody tried to sell me a fucking network subscription or a fucking Mountain Dew, and it didn't feel like I was watching a fucking used, car infomercial or anything like that. That is what I really enjoy about the commentary here. Um, and then like AEW's commentary isn't like that either, but their commentary is always just a complete clusterfuck to me. There's too many men in the goddamn booth. They never really have, like, sometimes they have good chemistry, but the best AEW show I've ever seen was the one that we saw live, and guess what? We didn't have their commentary. So, I don't know what that says. Nothing against, Jim Ross and, it, I, I think that there's maybe just, I think maybe all three of the guys are talented. Maybe not Excalibur. I don't know, but uh, I don't know. Something doesn't click. These two guys worked well together. It's just two guys talking. They're talking about the fucking match,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. And I wasn't constantly being marketed to. I really enjoyed that about it.
Yeah, like I said, like it's a big fight feel kind of thing, but in wrestling terms. I also want to point something out. I love the fact that they would lay out and you could actually hear, the blows and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Like like, dude, it's everything about this. I just this is what I loved about Ring of Honor, and it's like if you guys had presented this at Madison Square Garden, you'd have killed WWE that weekend.
I don't know about that, but I do think that I think this was good. I mean, I had a couple notes here. I love one part of the match where Lethal goes to lock in the figure four.
Yeah,
Castle barely fights him off, so he goes right back to it. Fuck it, why not? I mean, you're not moving on to the next goddamn spot. You go back in, he goes for it again. Castle barely fights him off. Finally, Castle has to actually kick him in the face. Boom, gets a good shot in on him, and that gives Castle enough time to get back to his feet. I loved that, the psychology of that, because folks, that's what the fuck you're supposed to be doing, right? Like that to me, like that just stood out to me as like this really looked like he was trying to get him in the move, and this really looked like he didn't want to be in the move.
Yes, I know. That's my thing about so many things to this day. Like it looks like people literally just lay there for hours, like it's just like, dude, if I'm in that position, I'm not letting you get this on me, kind of thing.
Right.
And it, that it's the little things,
Yeah.
that can make or break something at times, especially when you're doing this type of presentation. Let's be honest. If you had half of the roster from AEW trying to do this type of matchup, they couldn't do it.
You're giving them more credit than I would.
No,
I
I said they couldn't do it.
Oh no, I know. I still say you're giving them more credit than I would because you said only half.
Okay,
Uh, I
okay.
I think there's like 4 people in AEW capable of having this match, and that's like Pac, Cody, and then I would have to figure out the other two.
And Pac, yeah, Pac has been in Ring of Honor too.
Um,
Back in the day. Uh,
I mean, I think that not to make this an AEW thing, but I think Adam Page is capable of it most likely as well. Um,
Cody.
I listed him first.
Oh, oh,
Him and
oh,
Pac were the first two. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going down this rabbit hole because I know
oh.
exactly where we're going to end up, and I don't want to be there. Uh, anyway, I also loved where, um, we get to the point where Castle's trying to get the bangerang. He's trying to hit
Yes.
it, and the first time he can't do it because Lethal's been targeting the knee. The second time he gets it, but not all of it, and then Lethal has to use yet another rope break. So you're like, Castle's still got all his rope breaks. Lethal's only got one left. What's going to happen here? And then, we eventually get the lethal injection for the win. And I love that they still made Castle look really strong. He almost got the win on this seasoned veteran of Lethal. Lethal still gets the win. Nobody looks like shit, but listen up, Vince Russo. Someone still won and someone still lost. But
Um,
no one looks like dog shit.
yeah, I can't stand today's 50-50 booking crap. That to me is just the most ridiculous thing. I'm like, it's still a fight. Someone has to win and someone has to lose. Just because you lose, it doesn't mean that you look like shit. Like
Right.
it just it
Exactly.
let's Kenny Omega became more famous when he lost to Okada rather than when he won, in my opinion.
Right.
Like in his loss, he became bigger. So, that should tell you something. And that's a small example. But I also love how they would keep track of the rope breaks. You would see the little symbol on the thing.
Yeah, and that adds to it because the audience is constantly being reminded of who's got what left.
Like I said, it's kind of like it's a reset on the entire company. Like they're kind of like, hey, we're gonna re-educate people on Ring of Honor. We're gonna turn this around, kind of thing.
Right. This is a great time to start watching this because I like I said, I haven't watched it seriously in over 10 years, and I've traditionally have been pretty turned off by the product, but I really enjoyed this. Let's get into the second match, right? So
Yep.
the build up here, Wheeler Yuta's whole build up package, I loved it. I think I liked it better than all of them. Probably though, because I was so unfamiliar with him. And I know Dalton Castle, I know Jay Lethal, I know Jonathan Gresham. I know where they come from, I know where they've been. So I really loved his whole thing about he's the decoder, right? He studies tape. He is gonna find out how to beat you. He's gonna study your weaknesses. I loved that about him. And I loved how he talked about him being, at such a young age and this long journey he's gone through, and you take him seriously. Um, and then we go to Jonathan Gresham, and I thought I thought he may have had the weakest of the four. It was still good, but I thought it was the weakest promo out of the four, and it's because he's talking from a position of strength. He doesn't really feel like you don't when you watch his, you don't really get that I'm so and so and I'm going to try my hardest to win this championship. He's not really he's not really worried about that shit. He's like I am really fucking good and it's my time.
Yeah.
And I'm insanely fucking good and it's my time. And
Mhm.
I'm going to take this shit. And I love Jay Lethal. He's my partner, but he is not going to stop me.
And
And
that again is another thing I loved about it. You know, just the fact that it wasn't those typical I'm a fighter. I'm gonna do this. I promise you, I'm gonna win this. No, like it's someone talking from the heart.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The match itself I thought was really good. I love the opening of the match where Gresham is so when you look at this on paper, obviously Utah's the underdog. They flipped it. In the opening of this match, Gresham struggles. Utah's like got his number, man. And I loved that it's like hold after hold after hold, and Gresham's on the damn defensive. Not how I would have anticipated this going. And this is another thing where it's like, I know Gresham wins the whole tournament watching this because I already know that. It's
Spoiler.
it's you're right. And well, I mean shit. If you don't
And
know by now,
you can
um
go. That is
if you even Googled it, it's I know he wins the whole damn tournament, right? So I know he's gonna win, but I'm like, this goes back to like you can still win and not make your opponent look like dog shit.
yeah,
And I always say that on any level, it doesn't do you any good if someone is in your employ and you're a booker promoter. It does not do you any good to make them look like shit
no,
because that is a product you're selling. Walmart doesn't come out and be like Lysol's fucking trash. They don't. Now, if you're gonna, you might fire that person and then talk shit about them after, right? Because that's no longer a product you're offering. But that'd be like fucking, Amazon sells animal crackers and they come out and make an ad about how animal crackers are crap. They're not doing that. You don't do that for a product you're trying to sell. And so it never behooves a wrestler or promoter or a booker or a promoter to book talent in a way that makes them look like shit. And so I really love that they booked all four of these guys very strongly, and nobody looks terrible losing. But they do still lose, and it's clean. Um, I noted here that the bridge work in this match between the two of them was
yeah,
incredible. It reminded me of like Benoit and Eddie or Malenko and Eddie, the stuff they would do back in WCW or early WWF.
yeah. Yeah, it was incredible. You know, I kind of look at it this way, right? So we talk about the sports-based presentation. This match is a perfect example. All right. It's kind of like when you watch a football game and one team is actually has the supposed winning team on the ropes, and people are like, oh my goodness, this team could lose, but then they start to make that comeback and it's like, oh shit, what's going to happen now? That's the perfect example, is this match. That's what sports looks like.
Absolutely, I agree
that's
100%.
that's what sports wrestling looks like, I should say.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And again, or go ahead.
Well, I was gonna move on to something else, so please.
Oh, I was gonna say, and again, wrestling can be whatever it wants to be. I'm not saying that, like I love all forms of pro wrestling, good and bad, obviously, but
Yeah,
like,
you do.
but I'm saying that, like, when it comes to truly being different, when it comes to like actually presenting the sport of wrestling, not necessarily the way that technical moves are done or the way that high flying moves are done, but just as in a big fight field. That's what this was.
I agree. I agree entirely. I had two other notes here. I like that he told the decoder story throughout the match from
Yeah.
the promo. Promo fed into the story they told in the match. Um, there's one botch in the match that I thought was obvious. The rest of it was very smooth. Um, and that one botch is the flying crossbody. Um, Gresham's not in the right spot, right? So he comes up. He clearly sees Yuta's up there. So he tries to like dodge it, but Yuta doesn't move. He just waits for him to turn back around, and so Gresham can't really do anything else, and he feeds right back into it, and that was like the suspension of disbelief. It kind of it took you out of the moment there, and that was a pretty clear botch in the match. That's the only negative I really have about this match, though, and it fucking happens, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
what
I mean, people call out botch spots a lot, and it's just like, y'all, it happens, like
right? Exactly. What in the fuck is the name of the move that he won with?
wasn't really even a move. It was just he made him tap out because he was slamming his knee on the mat.
Right. I was like, is this something he does a lot? Like that shit was amazing. I love how innovative of a submission that is. Where it's just like, I'm going to beat your fucking knee into the mat until you give up.
No, actually, he doesn't do that a lot. If I'm not mistaken, I could be. I haven't seen like too much of. Well, I haven't seen a lot of his matches in Ring of Honor, and I need to go and look at a lot of them. But I I don't think he has a name for it. I just think it was something that he made up on the fly during the match. It was just like, hey, I need to make you tap out. I'll just do this. I loved it. I was like, now that's different,
Yeah.
you know, and it's
Agreed.
simple.
Agreed. I loved it. I hate the idea in like most modern wrestling that I can only win a match with this one move.
Yeah.
Or if I'm known for two finishes, I can only win with one of those. I hate that shit. It's one of the reasons I really love AJ Styles. It's one of the reasons that I really liked what Henry still kind of does, but he really used to heavily try to do a different move to win a match, every time. And I really like that about him. Like I said, I love that about AJ. He's in WWE, right? So he has to have his established 5 moves of doom. He really has like 15 because he's AJ Styles, but he doesn't win with the same shit every time. Um, I like that about him. But yeah, I mean, this match to me was easily the better match, and on paper, Lethal and Castle's the better draw. Not to say that the match was bad by any means, but I just think that Yuta and Gresham. I think Yuta was hungry to prove himself against Gresham, and then Jonathan Gresham just is who he fucking is. Um, so yeah, so there we are. I mean that's really all I got to say about it. But I really liked the second match.
Yeah, man. And like I said, I think you proved my point throughout this episode. It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, I was completely prepared to be bored for an hour, but I was not. I was like, man, I was like, I'm gonna kill him if I have to sit through fucking 15 matches and I'm just bored out of my fucking mind. But I wasn't. I was not bored at all. I really enjoyed this. And so I mean, I would encourage people to give it a shot. Like I said, it's completely free. You can get it on the Fight app. You can go and watch it on the Fight website, fight.tv. Um, you know, if you got nothing to do, give it a watch. And if you don't like it, fucking turn it off. But I was pleasantly entertained by it, and I will add that there is no crowd here, and I fucking hate crowdless wrestling. I can only imagine how good this would have been with like a red hot, even like a 400 or 500 person audience. Red hot, this would have been amazing. Uh,
Oh,
in in front of 10,000, it would have been unbelievable.
yeah, I agree completely. it would have been awesome had it been at center stage, with the crowd that we had, kind of thing, which wasn't that many people. There was probably about 1,000 maybe. I don't remember how many people there were, but it was a sold out crowd. And it felt, big. I mean, it wasn't the biggest audience, but it felt big at the time. So, I can only imagine, like you said, how it would have sounded with the crowd. But like I said, and I emphasized it a lot during this episode, this was a reset for Ring of Honor. They wanted to kind of reintroduce people to Ring of Honor. It's like, okay, let's be we can't be AEW. They're going to kill us with talent right now. The NWA had just launched. They're kind of doing a partnership with them. They can't be them. They can't be New Japan and stuff like that. They have to be different to stand out. So they're like, okay, well, here, let's reintroduce people to us. Let's do a complete reset kind of thing. Because it almost feels like you're fighting for the world title, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like a mid card.
No, it doesn't. It feels very fresh, and it feels like, these guys are fighting for the championship, not a championship.
Yeah. And this is not the championship. I mean, the Ring of Honor world title is still the championship, but that's held by ROH right now.
Right.
Which is tremendous. I think so, at least. And it was also held by PCO as well, and Jay Lethal has held it and everything like that. But this doesn't feel like a mid-card belt.
Right, not at all. And I would say too, we talked about there not being a crowd. I think Castle suffered the most from that out of the four men because he draws off. You can tell he really feeds off of that crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, I can kind of I can agree with that. Jay Lethal can just do both, kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, but I
Jay,
mean Dalton Castle is over like Rover all the time.
yeah,
You know, he's
uh,
such a big. He always gets such a big reaction.
yeah. But yeah, man. So Ring of Honor just said basically we need to do a reset, so they're reintroducing everything, and I think they were off to a successful start with this pure tournament and everything like that. And they're gonna, there's gonna be more stuff to come. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm glad that you wanted to do this as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's going to be nice to fill some time, and we might just fucking enjoy ourselves if we're not careful.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know
I
I am.
I already am. Yeah. That being said, we're going to be continuing to cover this. Our next episode will probably be sort of like this one. We might get a few items out of the way and then do two more matches, or we might do four. Just depends on how it goes until we cover it all. I'm in no hurry. To get through this. I'm pretty excited to continue to do it. So give it a shot. If you're listening to us, absolutely give us a like on Facebook, leave us a review if you like us. If you don't leave one. And then check us out anywhere that you get your podcast from. If you want to hear us somewhere that you listen to your podcast and we're not there, let us know. Message us on Facebook. I can look into it. We're pretty much getting the audio versions of these out the same day now, as the video airs, and we air these every Sunday. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very happy with all the reception we've gotten, especially since we went to the audio format, which really has expanded our audience. And why don't you tell everybody before we go what's going on over at SWN?
Right now, looking into some new things for SWN. My schedule's been kind of crazy recently, so I haven't really been able to record a brand new episode. But we're looking into some things. I'm also looking into launching something new, something that actually might not involve wrestling necessarily. But there could be more on that to come. It just depends on how things kind of go right now. Like I said, it's a brand new year. There's some new things hopefully to try, and hopefully I'll find the time to do that. But I'm having fun doing this right here with you, man, with Evolve Review. I knew this would reach a lot of people, and I said, if people would only see this, they would have a different opinion of it. But if they just hear about it, they're just gonna be like, oh, well, that sounds boring. I'm like, no, actually go and watch it.
Right. Yeah,
So,
man. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and thanks everybody for joining us. And this has been the first of many episodes about the Ring of Honor Pure Championship Tournament. This has been an Evolved Review.